premiere episode calls for nostalgia cooking with a very modern Indian take to it. Diwali as a festival is all about entertaining, and food always adds to that glorious reunion. In today's cooking, we are going to be creating a very old school dal, that's the Cholar Dal. I call it the most famed first cousin of the dal makhani. Subtle flavors coming together, marrying into each other and pairing beautifully for the weather and the climate that Diwali brings. We are going to be pairing this along with a Zucchini ki Subzi, very modern Indian take to a classic. However, English vegetables marrying into an Indian family is what this Diwali is going to be all about. Let's get to creating it. This Cholar Dal is a very rich laden dal which has dry fruits in it, it's got some prunes in it, and it's got coconut. To start off, we're just going to take about 30 to 40 grams of clarified butter or ghee and allow this to get nice and hot before we infuse it with some spices. So here I've got about 2 pieces of cinnamon, about 6 green cardamoms, and about 8 cloves going in, and we're just going to allow this to infuse with each other, giving it that glorious fall, autumny weather creation. This lentil preparation that uses split chickpeas is so rich with spices that give you the heat and not the overall spice content. As the spices are blooming in the clarified butter, in goes a spice blend very famous from Bengal, which is known as the Panch Phoran spice. It's got 5 seeds. It's got very simple to make. It's got a teaspoon of fennel seeds. It's got a teaspoon of nigella. It's got a teaspoon of fenugreek. It's got a teaspoon of cumin, and it's got a teaspoon of mustard seeds. So that goes in, and we're just going to allow it to bloom and scent this entire mix. Technically, a Cholar Dal never uses this, but I just enjoy the flavor that this brings to the overall creation. As this is blooming in goes about half a teaspoon of asafoetida, just to infuse into each other. With that, we're going to add in some ginger, about a tablespoon of ginger, finely minced, just to scent and flavor this entire mix. Now in goes a coconut. So I've taken about 1/4 coconut and cut it into small shards, and they just go in, and we're just going to allow this to get a glorious brown in color. In goes 1 bay leaf, just snipped, and 3 red chilies. So I don't want the red chilies to burn, that's why I've added it more towards the end of the time, so that it just infuses and gives out its essential oils. Allow all this to saute well with each other before adding in some nuts. So I've taken about 15 almonds and just roughly chopped them, and we're just going to add that in and saute this till you get that great flavors coming together. In goes some prunes. So technically this lentil prep always uses raisins, but here I'm using prunes. So I've taken about 10 prunes, just roughly chopped them. I like the black specks that come about in this entire creation. So saute this and allow it to sweat along with the coconut, the almond, and a whole lot of goodness that's right in this pot. In goes half a teaspoon of golden turmeric, just so that it infuses in the oil. A teaspoon of red chili powder. I'm using the non-spiced, gorgeous red Kashmiri chili powder. And about 1.5 teaspoon of roasted cumin powder. Allow all this now to infuse with each other. And if you're scared that you would burn the overall thing, just simmer the flame and allow it to saute with each other. You want to get that golden hue with a slight sunset orangey tinge to it. As this entire tempering or tadka has infused with each other and it's slightly roasting in the clarified butter, here I've taken 2 cups of split chickpeas that I had soaked overnight, and I boiled it in some salted water with a dash of turmeric till it's about 80% done, and that with the water goes right into the lentil preparation. A dash of salt is what's required to season this. Bring this to a rapid boil and allow it to simmer for at least 35 to 40 minutes till the lentil gets nice and mashy and all the flavors just marry into each other, giving it that glorious sunset hue. As the cholar dal is simmering, and I'm going to allow it to simmer for at least 40 to 45 minutes, but in the meantime we're going to get to the fun part of creating this zucchini ki sabzi. So here I've got 2 zucchinis that I've cut into half lengthwise and cut them into 1 centimeter semicircles. They go into a bowl, and with that I've taken 2 medium-sized squash, cut them again into half lengthwise and 1 centimeter semicircles. They go in as well. You just play around with the color that the yellow and green bring to this entire dish. In goes 100 grams of almond flour. So while this is a very Gujarati in nature dish, I'm not using chickpea flour, I'm using almond flour just to accentuate and give it a modern Indian twist to it. So 100 grams of almond flour going on top. Into this goes a whole lot of spices, so about 2 teaspoons of roasted coriander powder going on top. 1 heaped teaspoon of roasted cumin powder going on top. 1 heaped teaspoon of roasted red chili powder going on top. And about half a teaspoon of this gorgeous golden turmeric going on top. So you just allow everything to mix and get to tossing and lightly coating each other. So while technically you can put your hand in and allow everything to coat, I just love tossing it and allowing the beautiful coating to come together really well. So while this has tossed, now comes to the fun part of just creating the onion tomato spice blend and cooking this on the slowest possible simmer. Into a cast iron pan goes about 20 to 30 ml of olive oil, just so that it gets nice and hot before we infuse in some cumin into it. So about a teaspoon of cumin going right in, and just enjoy the sizzle that it brings to this overall creation. While that is sizzling, about 1/4 teaspoon of asafoetida or hing goes right in, and a whole lot of heat coming alive with about a tablespoon of ginger, 8 cloves of garlic, and 2 whole green chilies that I've finely chopped, and that's going in. Now this is a gorgeous spice blend that's just going to infuse with the olive oil. As soon as you begin to get the sharp heat that the asafoetida marries into the ginger, in goes 2 onions that I've finely shredded. I'm using a red onion out here. You can go right ahead and use a white onion if it suits you fine. Just saute all this and allow the onions to get slightly golden brown before adding in the tomatoes. As the onions have got nice and translucent, in goes 1 tomato, because you just wanted to give you that slight tart texture into this glorious dish. It's as simple as this. With the tomatoes nicely softened, in goes the zucchini. Just go everything with the almond flour and the spice blend. Allow everything to mix with each other. Now the trick out here is zucchini and squash belonging to the squash family has about 80% water, and we're going to allow that water to actually lightly coat and cook this entire creation. So toss this with all the spices merging with each other and just allow this to cook on the slowest possible simmer. Have it covered so that everything marries into each other. As this gets to a slight simmer, in goes a fine sprinkling of some sea salt, and this is just going to aid the zucchini and squash to release all its water out. We're going to mix it at the end, not now, so we're just going to give it a sprinkle and cover the lid and allow this to cook for a good 20 minutes on the slowest possible simmer. 20 minutes of allowing this gorgeous creation to simmer. It's just about done, and you can see the little char that it has got. If it has settled at the bottom, scrape it off. It just adds to that zing that's so required in creating this star stunner. This is perfect to enjoy either with some rice and the cholar dal, or just go right ahead and enjoy it with some gorgeous puris. I think that indulgence is so required during this festival. All I'm going to do is give it a fine sprinkle of some finely chopped leaves of coriander, about half a tablespoon of it, and this is ready to be enjoyed. A slight tossing so that the herb just elevates it and gives it that glorious freshness. And lunch is ready. 40 minutes of allowing this highly scented cholar dal, which has simmered to perfection. It's got that golden brown color with the spice and all the heat coming alive over here. We're just going to elevate this with some herb, and that is finely chopped leaves of coriander. So here I'm going right ahead and putting 2 tablespoons. I'm getting a little experimental because I wanted to have that burst of flavor. This is ready as well, and all we're going to do is plate this into a bowl to enjoy for lunch. As I said earlier, my Cholar Dal is a famed first cousin of the Dal Makhani, giving it that color. Do not be alarmed by the color, assuming that the spice, it's a beautiful blend coming together in perfect harmony when paired with my modern Indian take on the Zucchini ki Subzi. This is a great meal to enjoy either with some rice, some parathas, or indulge in some puris. I hope you enjoyed creating this gorgeous meal with me, kick-starting off our entire Diwali series with a whole lot of goodness and food always being the epitome of the entire gathering. Don't forget to share loads of love by hitting on the like button, and as I always say, don't forget to subscribe.